6 p.m. in Marwa in the far north region of the country. Same time right here in the economic capital city of Douala. Good evening, dear viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. First, our major stories. Road accidents continue to claim lives in Cameroon. A fatal road accident on the Fumbot-Bafoussam highway leaves at least 8 persons dead and 11 others injured. A minibus that had on board passengers collided with a heavy-duty truck that was coming from the opposite direction. And away from that, over 60 women in Cameroon were either shot, stabbed, strangled, or beaten to death this year. The staggering toll places Cameroon amongst the top 30 African countries where violence meted against women are on rise. Civil society actors blame the rise on ineffective laws and the absence of enough shelters to host battered women. Tonight, we'll give you statistics of cases of violence meted on women this year across the national territory. Stay with us for details and more. We begin with a sad incident where at least 8 persons have died and 11 others injured in an accident that occurred along the Fumbot-Bafoussam highway in the West region. A Hiace vehicle belonging to Nous travel agency collided with a heavy-duty truck early today at about 10 a.m. According to a communique made public by the governor of the West region of the country, that is Adolphe Lele-Afrique, the corpses have been deposited in the mortuary where the injured victims are receiving medical attention at the Equinoxe Hospital Center. The governor of the West region, Awafonka Augustine, visited the scene and equally proceeded to the Bafoussam Regional Hospital where he comforted the injured victims. And right now, let's take a listen to the senior divisional officer for the Memphis division in the West region, David Kogut, who shortly after the incident gave something after the accident. We'll be coming to this except of the senior divisional officer for Memphis division, the West region, where shortly after that accident that led to the death of about 8 persons with about 11 others injured along the Fumbot-Bafoussam highway, he'll be giving us the recent information of what happened in that accident.
We were in a meeting with the governor, and the governor received a phone call saying that there is a ghastly accident at Equinoxe. Immediately we rushed on the spot and we saw a Hiace car which was completely broken, and the truck which was coming from Bafoussam to Fumban was overtaking yes with Isakam, and then he wanted to shift so that Isakam can pass. And that is where the accident occurred. On the spot, we have realized that 5 women lost their life and 3 men who are at the mortuary where we are actually. And at the hospital, we have visited the wounded people. There are 11 on the number. So that is exactly the situation now.
Senior Divisional Officer for the Memphis, David Kogut, speaking shortly after the accident that claimed at least 8 lives on the Fumbot-Bafoussam highway in the West region of the country. And we'll stay in that part of the country where the announced installation of the new chief has created tension amongst the natives of Bachichur village in the Upcom division of the West region. This is the 3rd time that the paramount chief of Funjumakwet, His Majesty John B.C. Kamgaives, is trying to impose his son as the chief of the village, which already has a leader. The natives of Bachichur village appointing a 2nd chief to them will rather cause division amongst themselves. We have details in this report done by Smarty Gabriel.
Tensed atmosphere at Bachichur village found in Fonjomekwet on the Banjo subdivision of the West region. These inhabitants who blocked the passage into the village are disappointed after an attempt by the paramount chief to create a chieftaincy within Bachichur village failed.
I cannot understand how it is possible for a young man to come who has been there for a maximum of 6 years to say that I want to create his own chieftaincy in one of my quarters. It's for that reason that I say no, because I'm administration of Cameroon does not more accept creation of chieftaincy. And this type of disorder, if it continues, our tradition keeps losing ground.
As a result of the tension, one of the notables who came for the enthronement of the new chief was caught and beaten before he was temporarily kidnapped. According to the chief of Bachicho village, laws have been passed by higher authorities not to create chieftaincies, but he is surprised that the laws are not respected.
The sous-prefect has given an interdiction to this manifestation, but the young man, being who he is, being so troublesome, continues to insist that he will have it. The population is there, they are very peaceful, but they are also very strong. They are ready to tell him no and no. We are there, we are peaceful, loving people, and we want that peace to continue. If a young man troublesome like he is wants to come and create disorder, we want to say no.
The chief of Bachicho village gave this advice to those he has called detractors.
If he's being supported by whoever, let the person understand that that is a disorder that is going to be created, and we will not accept it. Impossible. Bachicho is one, I will never be divided as long as the government of Cameroon knows that villages are not more divided.
It was thanks to the intervention of the chief of Bachicho village, His Majesty Jomini Yemte Eric, that the protesters removed the roadblock. Attempts at getting the paramount chief of Fonjomekwit, His Royal Majesty Jumbisi Kanga Eve, react on camera was unsuccessful, but off camera he said the law must be respected.
And over to something else, femicide and gender-based violence keeps gaining grounds in Cameroon. Feminist and civil society leaders say if government authorities were taking key measures, then more lives of women would have been saved. We have details in this report done by Innocent Aze.
Feminist and civil society organizations in Cameroon now count 61 cases of gender-based violence and femicide within 274 days, with 2 recent cases recorded in the East and South regions.
So no, the domestic abuse and violence and femicide are not increasing in our country. It have always existed in our country, but now we have more, we have more people who are exposing them. That's why we have the impression that it's increasing, but in fact not. They always exist.
To Clarence Yongo, CEO of Griot, a Facebook news platform, the cases are on the rise in Cameroon, and if nothing is done, it will attain explosion stage.
Les chiffres vont en s'aggravant, et que si rien n'est fait, ce sera encore pire.
Whether rising or permanent in the Cameroonian society, the Ministry of Women Empowerment and the Family is blamed for only condemning and taking vegetable decisions.
The action they have been taking don't have the impact they want it to be because of the methodology sometimes. We have the impression that the ministry is not working or don't have the impact because it's not always collaborating in an effective way with civil society organizations, especially those who are working in a grassroots level.
The defender of the rights of women believes it is not too late or impossible to eradicate gender-based violence and femicides in the country.
The specific law and things that's already being ongoing. We don't have safe space for GBV survivors, especially in our city in Douala. So it's very difficult sometimes for civil society organizations to take care of that GBV survivor. We need to empower women, because when a woman knows her rights, she will be less exposed to violence. And then we have to work on men education, because especially about how to address their emotions.
Sensitization, which according to the feminists must touch young people and adults, irrespective of where they are found.
And on to something else, the United Nations Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Central Africa is helping journalists to step up the fight against hate speech and incitement to hatred and violence in the sub-region. They have elaborated a regional strategy and action plan. It is in the course of an adoption at a 3-day meeting bringing together journalists from across the sub-region in Cameroon's economic capital city, Douala. Babila Jonathan reports.
Speech, incitement to hatred and violence, seriously threatening peace, social cohesion and the stability of Central African nations.
We have seen that incitement to violence and hate speech are rapidly growing, and this also through the development of communication means, including social media.
Hate speech-related deaths and destruction arrive in countries of the sub-region, especially in countries like Cameroon, where there are socio-political and security tensions, often hate-induced at the origin.
This is something requiring urgent action.
Under the coordination of the United Nations Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Central Africa and the resident representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, journalists from across the sub-region are pressing for a regional strategy and action plan against hate speech and incitement to hatred and violence. It is the purpose of this meeting in Douala, Cameroon.
This goes from legislative reforms to sensitization, but also to making sure that major professionals would also abide by all rules and norms regulating their professional conduct.
They are examining the draft document for adoption and subsequent implementation to curb hate speech.
In the same vein, the regional representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Africa emphasized on the point that the prevention of hate speech or fight against the ill should not be a justification for violation of human rights. Take a listen to him in this excerpt.
For importance, utmost importance, that if prevention is not always enough, it should be supplemented by sanction. And but we have an important message here. Prevention and addressing hate speech and incitement to violence should in no way lead to unjustified restrictions of the civic space and the rights to freedoms of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of opinion and expression can even serve for the purpose to counter the hate speech being disseminated around.
And over to politics, key opposition political actors in Cameroon have stood up against the ban of the PCRN party's National Congress, initially authorized to hold in Kribi in the south region of Cameroon in December. Days after authorization and few days after the event, the divisional officer for Kribi 2 has issued a suspension order, which is being qualified by the opposition family in Cameroon as a provocation and an attack on liberties. Femi Armstrong Sanda is the man of that story.
As a lawyer, I can't just keep quiet after reading about the cancelled Congress of the PCRN political party. This is troubling. The local authorities gave them permission to hold the convention, showing fairness and good faith. It is clear that someone has clearly influenced this ban. These are the words of Barrister Akere Muna, former bâtonnier and president of the Now movement, reacting to the ban on the PCRN party's national convention built for December 15 to 17 in the Ocean Division of the South region of Cameroon, precisely in the city of Kribi. Commenting further, Barrister Akere Muna says this biased action by the administrative authority is not only frustrating but also crushes the hopes for the rule of law in the country Cameroon. In the same show of solidarity, Professor Maurice Kamto of the CRM political party says it is another serious attack on public freedoms and unacceptable interference in the internal functioning of a legalized political party. In his suspension note and motive, the divisional officer said the party has unsettled internal issues that risk destabilizing social peace in Kribi. An argument discarded by the CRM political party leader, who says the ruling CPDM party is rocked by multiple internal squabbles which have never been used as a motive to ban any of its public events. In his reaction, the PCRN party leader, Honorable Cabral Libi, says the ban is a blatant attack on the freedom to assemble enshrined in international commitments made by the state of Cameroon. He says nothing justifies such act taking few days to the start of an event that has already received enormous material and financial engagement. The PCRN party says that the popular uprising that certain members of the government's secular arm of bloodthirsty forces wants to organize in Cameroon through provocations will not pass through the party. The uncommon show of solidarity among Cameroonian opposition leaders and the united front against a common problem has been saluted by political observers.
From Armstrong Sander reporting there, and over to our health page. Malaria, HIV and AIDS, cholera and tuberculosis are major pathologies affecting the well-being of Cameroonians. This is according to reports published by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. In order to address this, community health workers of the Littoral region met today in the city of Douala. They discussed on some challenges they are currently facing. We have details in this report done by A.C. Luciliangu.
In Cameroon, lack of adequate health care and services have had a devastating consequence on over 1 million people, including men, women and children, with most cases of cholera, HIV, tuberculosis and malaria being the leading pathologies.
That in our country, malaria is still the biggest, most problem in the health system. Above 29% of morbidity in hospital system and something like 10% of mortality.
According to the community of health workers, 24,000 health districts are in dire need of a health coverage.
Nous avons présenté au cours de cette réunion les gaps en termes d'agents santé communautaire dans la région du littoral.
This is evident as 42% of children aged 12 to 23 months are unable to benefit from effective immunization. 1 out of 8 die before the age of 5 years. 42% of children, like women, sleep without mosquito nets. Local councils complain of limited finance, which has hindered their reach out.
Since the last national strategic plan of the fight against malaria, we notice a lack of financial needs to cover the fight.
It was therefore an opportunity for community workers across the littoral region to discuss on how they can work hand in glove to curb the prevalence of diseases in Cameroon, mostly malaria, which is one of the leading causes of death. Meantime, they wish the Minister of Health help address the challenges faced.
And out of our borders, in the upcoming report, Malaglari gives us recent updates on floods in Kenya that has claimed over 76 lives. Meanwhile, at least 11 people have died in a mine where after an elevator transporting workers to the surface failed. We have details from this report done by Malaglari.
At least 400 people were neutralized over the weekend during an attack by the Burkina Faso armed forces against nearly 3,000 terrorists who attacked the Djibo military camp in the Sahel province of the country. The Burkinabe media say the death toll could rise on the side of the terrorists because the number of attackers killed in their flight through the bush and the tracks was being compiled. According to the local population, Burkinabe soldiers were killed by attackers before the intervention of the Air Force. And elsewhere in South Africa, 11 people have been killed and many others sustained injuries in a mining company, a platinum mine in South Africa. The company spokesman says 86 people were involved in the accident that was caused by winding rope connected to a lift which hoists people up and down the mine shaft. And over to Kenya, where the Kenyan government on Monday urged people living in flood-prone areas to relocate to higher ground as heavy rains and flash floods continue to wreak havoc across East Africa. At least 76 people have died and 40,000 displaced from their homes since the rains began hitting the country in October. And elsewhere in Senegal, Karim Wade, 55 years old, son and former minister of ex-president Abdoulaye Wade and member of the PDS party, has been designated as a candidate for the February 25th presidential election. But questions remain about the legal implication of an old conviction of Mr. Wade about his ability to return to the country and obtain from the tax authorities the clearance essential for the candidacy.
That's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Thank you so much for staying with us on Talking Point tonight. Domestic violence has led to the death of several women in Cameroon. According to an online news platform known as Griot, at least 62 women have been killed this year. Tonight on Talking Point, I'll be receiving a human rights defender, Barrister Liscom, and I will be discussing on why these cases of domestic violence are on the rise. A month cannot pass without us being informed about cases of violence meted on women. As a lawyer, I guess you must have attended to such cases. What are your thoughts about the drastic rise of domestic violence in Cameroon?
Thank you very much for coming to me for this so important issue, which is my issue, which is a very, very, very big issue for all the women, but also for the whole society, because it concerns the family, concerns the society, and concerns the government, our leaders. These three different kinds of actors of this dramatic and tragic issue must be aware of what we lose when every day they kill a woman, a mother, a sister, a wife, because she accepted to marry someone. She accepted to give kids to her new family. And this happened. And for these past days, I heard about a lot of Femicide sites in Cameroon. It is too much, because we are living in an environment where our leaders don't care about the people in generally. We see it every day. We see it about garbage. We see it about roads. Every time they don't have electricity. And when it is about taking care of issues of women, violence, it's just too bad. They don't seem to care at all. While they have a core role, the main role in this tragic situation. So, I don't know what to tell you, but as a lawyer, I didn't receive any woman coming here to ask me advices about this situation of violence against women and gender. I did not meet this kind of situation as a lawyer. But I listen to the newspapers, I read, and I know that this happens very often. And what I see is that only activists, women human rights defenders are concerned, such as Griot, Redac. They stand up and they try to do something for them. It is not enough.
Barrister Liscom, now I would like to know what really explains the silence of some of these women who are victims of violence. Is it a society, or is it the family, or why not? Is it tradition?
It is a very loud, it's a very heavy heritage. You have traditions in it. You have, and when I say traditions, of course, that means you have religious, traditional leaders, and your family. Because if your mother is a mother for a different period of your life, and that she raised you by taking you to be, you know, a servant for your wife, for the husband. You are a servant. You don't have to say no. You don't have to show him that you exist as a person, a human being, but that just like a servant for him, you have nothing to say. And this is your own mother who raised you like that. You are in trouble, because you know that everywhere you can go tomorrow, when you meet this violence in your road, when you are married, you have nowhere to go, because your mother has already asked you to obey, to not answer, to serve your husband, to take care of your kid, never leave them. And when this happens, you are in trouble. It is difficult for you to take out all this linked, all this, you are already in this, all this, and you don't know what to do. You even don't know that you can complain. But sometimes, when I saw some of them in the past, and I must take in account that if I give as advice to them that they must live, I must give, what can I give them to help them to live, to stay in life, to still be a human being out of this marriage? We must have to give an exchange. When we give this kind of advices to them, leave your husband, leave your kids, leave your house, leave everything, because you must save your life. It is not enough. Comparatively, when you have to say, okay, you must tell him, okay, go to this place, you are welcome there, they will help you to be honestly free, legally free, but also economically free. You must be able to eat there. So you must have people who can serve you your daily food, give you a bed. Do we have this in our society? I doubt. So we have a lot to do to help these women from violences, because they need, this is human rights, to have food every day, to have medicine every day, to take care of your kid in very good condition, which the government cannot serve you, and the society either.
Apart from the silence of some of these victims, the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family equally seems to be silent in the face of these challenges. What extra efforts can it make to save some of these victims?
You see, the Minister of Women Affairs, okay, we can critique them, but it is the most smallest, you know, it is not the main minister where money goes. The big part of the budget of our country don't go to the families and to the Minister of the Families. They don't have means for that. They don't even have, you know, they are not free to do what they can do to help. Maybe they can need to have international help, contributor, but it must be out abroad, not here. They don't, but nobody cares when it is not about your own kids. And this is also our politician, our head of state. He must care about his citizen, because he is not a president of goats, of lions, of animals. He is a president of human beings.
Alice, communal rights defender based right here in the economic capital city, Douala. Thank you so much for your time. And due to time constraints, we'll be unable to continue with our interview. And that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us. Stay in the company of Serge Alain Etou with the program Equinoxe Soir.